of course, for me also, it's an honor to be here and to share a little bit more about our solution, and also to talk a little bit more about the subject that we are working with. Okay, I'm just trying to share my screen with you guys because I prepared a presentation, and I hope this could be helpful for everybody. Okay, just let me see if you can see my screen right now, please. Yes, perfect. I think that yes. Okay, so right now I want to put the focus about the main subject that I am working with the last 12 years of my life. It's about water, and it's interesting to share because usually we have a lot of conversations about water, about ESGs, about a lot of the SDGs also. So we are used to know all these famous words, I could say. But the point is how to become more practical when we talk about ESG, because I really believe that the main challenge that we have as humanity is not only about technology or about, some innovations, etc. But I believe that we need to put the focus on the behavior, because everything that we do, it's based on our behavior, and everything that we receive, it's also like a result for our behavior. So in my opinion, my personal opinion, the biggest challenge that we face as humanity is to make people think different and also act different. This is basically the largest challenge that we face as humanity. So from my side, the idea of this conversation right now is just to share with you guys a little bit more about some numbers, about some information that we have here, and also to put some focus on water and how to think more practical about our daily consumption of water, for example. Before to start, I just want to put some focus on the problem, and I really love this sentence from Cater, and she said that the first trillionaire will be an entrepreneur who addresses climate change. And why I really like this sentence, because if we look to the past, we can see a lot of important people and entrepreneurs and change makers, for example, that built a lot of different and innovative solutions. And of course, they made a lot of money, And as we can see today, we have like companies like Tesla, Google, and Apple, all these famous companies in the world that we sometimes just put our eyes and say, okay, how they become so big. And it's crazy to see, and sometimes we even put some shame on capitalism or something, but they grow it so much because they were bringing solutions for the market, for people and users that were in a need for something, We are talking about 30, 40 years ago with no computers like we have today, for example, with no internet like we have today, for example, no all these connections. And today when we talk about using ChatGPT, for example, we think, okay, it's just one more technology. But imagine using this technology like 40, 50 years ago. It's unbelievable. So the point is, right now, I feel, in my personal opinion about that is, the next challenge is not the individual challenge, Right now we have these big companies because we as users and as buyers for this solution, I could say that, we are used to buy things that can help us in our daily lives, a better computer, a better cell phone, for example, a mobile, or even, for example, I want to get the last social media to work with, etc. And all these are needs that are for the individuals, But I like this sentence too much because this means that the next steps of big entrepreneurs for sure gonna be entrepreneurs that are solving not problems from individuals, but problems from the society, problems from the entire world, So this is the biggest problems that we have. If we look to the future, Our biggest challenge is not to have a better computer or, even to go to the moon. For the next century, our challenge as humanity is to have water, it is to have food, it is to provide a good place to live to everybody, it's to end poverty. So all these biggest challenges that we face in the world right now are much more bigger than the individual problems. So this is really cool and interesting to start our conversation. But also, a few years ago, I heard a sentence from a mentor, and she said, Ezequiel, when a problem is too big, it's nobody's problem. So that's why I really like to do this connection about water, about climate change, and also about entrepreneurship, to make this connection about behavior also, because the challenge that we have, it's not to develop a new technology, it's not lack of money. Actually, the problem that we face is the behavior. How to make millions of people waste less water, how to make dozens of millions of people, to don't waste food anymore, for example. This is the real challenge that we face as humanity. So that's why, in my opinion, if you want to make a change, you need to change people, not the technology, not invent a new cell phone or something, but make people think and act different. And just going through the water topic here, we live in a blue planet, Every time that we see some picture from the sky, for example, or something from the space, we can look to the planet and say, okay, we have a blue planet because we have a lot of water. But what does it mean, all this water, we have a blue planet, but we are running out of water. And how this makes sense in our reality right now, for example, because, if you look anywhere, you can see a kind of water. So just to go a little bit deeper in the numbers, probably most of you know about that, but 97% of the world water is just salt water, from the seas and oceans, for example. And we have like 2.5% that is potable or drinkable water, that you can use actually. But only 0.5% of this water is accessible by us today. So basically, the entire humanity just is living every day with 0.5% of the total water that we have in the planet, for example. So this is why we have this biggest challenge, because even we having a lot of water, the water that we really can use, it's very scarce. And we know that drinking water changes absolutely everything. When a community has access to clean water, to potable water, everything will change. You can have hospitals, you can increase the health of the community. Also, it's better access to food. You can you can support the agriculture, etc. You can improve all the environment when you receive water in that place. We know many regions in the world with water scarcity or lack of water right now, for example, and we can see how big is the impact. And just to show an example, if you don't have water, you can have a school, for example, almost all the time. So this is really hard to understand, because we are talking about going to Mars, going to moon, space travels, etc. But we as humanity are still fighting to have water in our schools, for example, in our houses or in some places around the world. So for me, this is really something that changes everything. And water is the first thing. If you go and you see the old people and the old traditionals and ancient populations, for example, usually they set up the cities around a river or something like that, because the water means life, and that is the main point about water. But talking about some problems with water, today 50%, almost a half of the global population lives in a place with a potential, scarcity of water at least 1 month in a year. And this is crazy, because this can increase to almost 6 billion people by 2050. Imagine in 2050, almost 6%, 6 billion, people living in a world where they don't have water at least for a month. And this is crazy. Right now, for example, 2.3 billion people live in countries with water scarcity. And 733,000 million people live in countries with critical water scarcity. We are talking about, we could say 35% of the world population today suffering with some problem about water scarcity, about water supply right now, for example. And this is crazy, right now, for example, we have this number that is very impressive in my opinion. More than 700 million people around the world probably will be displaced by severe water scarcity by 2030. And this is impressive because imagine, it's almost a billion people that need to move. They need to leave the family, they need to leave the place they grow up, for example. They need to leave the place for their families and the old family, for example, just to move to a place where they can get water. And right now, 1.42 billion people, including 450 million children, are living in areas of extremely high vulnerability in access to potable water. And okay, we can see a lot of big numbers and crazy numbers, but how the consumption goes, Right now, for example, we can see that 72% goes for agriculture, 16% goes to cities and houses, 12% goes to industries. Basically, this is how is divided our consumption of fresh water. The point is, all the amount of water that we use in agriculture, we learned it in school that you have the water cycle, So you have the soil that is like the filter of everything, and you have all the water cycle forever, for example. We know that all the chemicals and all these aggressive products that we put in the soil, or even to prepare the food, etc., is polluting our soil, and our filter is getting every time worse and not working so well anymore. That's why we have like acid rain in cities like Sao Paulo and in other cities around the world, for example, because the filter is not working anymore. But I like to say that, okay, we are using all this amount of water, but this water still returns to the environment. And of course, we need to do something to reduce this aggressive way to use, the soil. But the point is, almost the entire water that we use in the agriculture comes back to the cycle. And this is something interesting to see, because all the water that we use in cities and houses and industries, this water, almost 95 or 94% of the water that we use doesn't come back to the environment, doesn't come back to the nature. So for my opinion, this is something really interesting to look at, because imagine a city like Sao Paulo, for example. We have more than 100 kilometers of city, from distance from one side to another. So it's interesting to see that when we have rain in the city, all the water that we got from the rain, we lose that water, because a lot of the waste in the city is not treated. We don't reuse the water of the rain, and instead having trees and nature, we have buildings, we have asphalt, we have all these chemical solutions that we developed during the years. So basically, all the water that we use in the cities and industries, we lose. And this is a big challenge for us, because imagine that all the water that we use in the nature, like agriculture, etc., this comes back to the process. But the water that we use in cities and houses, probably we lost, and we don't treat all the water. So that is the biggest challenge. So now we are living in a blue planet, but will the water run out? Maybe we're gonna be without water. I don't think that to have this so dramatic, or so like a Hollywood movie or something, to be so dramatic, or about the end of the water or something like that. But in my opinion, we are not completely running out of water. But okay, so telling that, what is the biggest problem? My opinion is assessing drinking water is the humanity's biggest challenge. So, in my opinion, the challenge is okay, we are not running totally out of water, but the challenge for our sons, for example, will be to have access to drink water. So this is the hardest challenge that we face as humanity, because a human can live for 3 to 4 days without water, not more than that. Imagine that we are on a Thursday right now. If all the water for the world were scarce right now, for example, the next Thursday, nobody gonna live anymore. So this is crazy to think that the entire humanity can end in a week, just if we lack the water, if we lost the water to survive. So this is crazy because you can live without money, you can live without even food, but not without water. And that's why this is the biggest challenge, because we live in a world with some regions with water. Just to give an example, Brazil, for example, has 13% of the world's fresh water. And we have another country, for example, in Africa, Sub-Saharan, for example, it's less than 0.5% or something. And this is a big number for them. So this is crazy to see, because you have million people, a lot of people in need to drink water. And another thing that is interesting to have in mind is it's expected by 2050 more than 2.5 billion people going from the rural areas to live in cities. So this is quite very difficult to manage. We are talking about 2.5 billion people left the agricultural life, for example, to live in cities. And right now, all these cities don't have water. So imagine how hard it will be for managers, for municipalities, even for governments, to provide water for all these people. So going further here, I want to do a question for everybody that is here. It's, did you already pee today? I like to talk about pee and about what we do, because this is very well connected with water. So my question for you right now is if you have made pee, if you used the toilet this morning, for example, just to have an idea. And I am asking this for you because just to show you a number that almost nobody knows is that usually 40% of the daily treated water in the cities around the world is used only to eliminate human waste in flushes. And this is crazy, All big city in the world, if you are in São Paulo, if you are in London, if you are in Mumbai or Chennai, for example, doesn't matter. Any city in the world, on average, 40% of the daily consumption is just for toilets. I brought you guys here an example from São Paulo. São Paulo is one of the biggest cities in the world. We have in the tiny cities like 25 million people, and the water supply company, it's called Sabesp, and in the largest reservoir it's called Cantareira. The Sabesp, the company, says that every day, on average, 43% of the daily consumption is just for flushes. So imagine a city like São Paulo, 25 million people in need of water to survive. And almost 0.5% of the water that they use every day is just to pee or poo on the water. So this makes no sense, And this is the same in New York, in London, in Chennai, and whatever, because this is the average consumption in any city in the world. And we are going, I like to repeat that, we are going to the moon, we are going to Mars, but we are still peeing on clean water. Makes no sense, makes no sense. So this is because, a single flush can waste more than 15 liters of water each time, And we as adults, for example, we go from 3 to 6 times to the toilet every single day. And since we're born, we know we as a person, our mom teaches, okay, you need to flush, you need to flush, you need to flush. So it's something that is so automatically, and we even don't think about it. And this is crazy because that's why I started all the presentation talking about behavior. Because in my personal opinion, we don't have a lack of technology, as I said. Our lack is for our behavior change, you know? So that's why we need to be like advocates to change the behavior, to make people stop the day and, you know, and start to think about what they are doing, what makes sense or not. If you ask to any person in the world, okay, makes sense to a big city use 0.5% of the water just for toilets, I am almost 100% sure that nobody will say yes, makes sense. No, makes no sense to use water on that. You know, you don't make a hamburger, you don't make a piece of barbecue or something, and you pee on. Why you do this on water? That is much more important for you to survive than the meat, for example. So we use a lot of water in every single flush. And imagine companies and industries, you know, an entire city with thousands, with millions of toilets being flushed every day, every time. Just to give an idea of how much it is, and in New York, every second, and look, this is a number for 2004. It's very old number. In 2004, every second in New York, more than 10,000 flushes were pressed. Every second. You know, even on the Super Bowl, for example, there is possible to feel some tremor in the ground in some regions in the US, because during the game, when they have like they stop the game for a while and people go to the toilet. So it's so many people going to the toilet and flushing at the same time that the ground shakes because the pipes working, etc. So this is crazy to see how much a toilet can impact in our lives. And of course, it's not just about water, but it's expensive also. We are paying a lot to use this water. So, and the price is not only, I could say, a cost, you know, that we have. The price, of course, will be for the future. Just to have you more numbers also, in your house, for example, up to 35% of the monthly bill of the water is just for toilets. If you go in offices, you know, commercial buildings, administrative places, etc., the toilet can represent up to 80% of the monthly consumption. You know, because people in offices just, you know, wash their hands or flush. So basically, these are the main consumptions. And of course, the toilet represents too much. So this is a number that almost nobody knows about it. And the question is, are we living in a very big toilet? So, you know, because, you know, all the water that we use, almost a half, we lost every day. We waste every day just in flushes or toilets. And I like numbers, so that's why I have more numbers for you guys. So today, 55% of the world population live in urban areas. And as I told you before, this proportion is expected to rise to 68% by 2050. And even in houses, for example, the water bill just increased, accelerated by the pandemic and remote work. So people start to stay more time in their house, working from home, for example, and this made the water bill just to increase. And all the recurrent monthly bills represent about 35% of the household budget. So this is a big number. We are paying every time more for the water that we consume. And a single flush can cost up to 20 cents of dollars. So usually we don't think that when we are pressing the button of the flush, we are paying something, you know? Because sometimes it's too cheap. In Brazil, for example, almost nobody pays for the water. They pay for the service to have water. You know, they pay for the treatment of the waste when they have it, and they pay for transportation of water, but for the water, they don't pay yet. So why this is changing? Because having water, it's not so easy as was like 50 years ago or something. So one thing that countries and governments are starting to think to change is to charge about the water, not only the service. And that's why I want to go to the final part of my presentation here and just share a little bit more about our company that is called Piipee. And as you can, imagine, it's called Piipee because we work with toilets and we work with pee. So that's why we have this name of the company. But just to explain to you a little bit more about what it is, Piipee is a liquid solution made with natural extracts, vegetable sources. Also, we are using biodegradable components and nanotechnology to treat the water in toilets. So the user don't need more water to flush every time they go to a toilet to pee. Our solution will remove any kind of bad smells, blocking any kind of bad smells. The solution of Piipee also will clean the toilet because it's a sanitizing product, and also will perfume the toilet, giving a very good perfume, like in substitution of water, So instead, using like 8, 10, 12 liters of water in each flush, the user right now with our solution just need 1 ml of Piipee. So this 1 ml will do all this process on the water in the toilet, eliminating the need to flush. So the user don't need to flush anymore. And the user right now can use in 2 ways. They can use by a spray. It's a hand spray, so the user just go in the toilet and spray in the toilet. So they go to pee, instead of flush, just spray the Piipee spray. Also, they can use by a manual device. So it's a solution that it's attached in any kind of toilet, and you don't need to break walls, change your toilet, you don't need to do renovations, also to work in your infrastructure, nothing. It's like 3-4 minutes, it's installed and ready to be used. And the challenge for the user is just, okay, I'm going to pee, instead of flush, I will press the Piipee solution, just that. So it's very easy to use solution, but makes a lot of impact in the world. So just to show about the impact that we are causing with our solution, we have this campaign that is called Be a Hero. This campaign is working very well in Brazil because it shows for the people and users how big is the impact of our solution in the daily life. For example, what a single person can save of water using our solution for 1 year is enough to survive for 15 years, 15 years. So imagine that you can have water to live 15 years, just using Piipee for 1 year, not flushing anymore for 1 year. So basically, this is the impact of our solution for the user life, for example, etc. And what I am talking about all this, because our solution is something that is possible to do it every day, every single day. When we talk about ESG, etc., people are using to talk about, okay, we're going to talk about the energy, about, deforestation, etc. These are big things that it's not everybody that can actually do something to work with, And the challenge is to make people get connected their lives, the entire daily life, for example, the daily behavior, to these main topics like, okay, I need to save water, I need to change how I prepare my food, etc. And all this is something, sometimes this is too big, it's too far from the reality of their lives. Our solution is something really interesting because it brings this to a personal thing, When are you alone in the toilet, just looking for the toilet, you have made your pee, and you look to the toilet and say, okay, I want to flush and I want to waste all this water. Or you look and say, okay, I don't want to waste all this water. So I use this solution to change my behavior and become more sustainable and do something that can really impact the world. So this is so powerful because when we do this, we are not changing the technology, we are not changing the toilet, we are not changing only the environment surround the people, the person. We are changing the person, we are changing the behavior. We receive a lot of feedbacks from people that say, okay, I was brushing my teeth, and when I looked to the toilet, I saw people and say, okay, I am saving water in the toilet, so I need to close quickly my tap. Or talking a shower, people say, okay, I was taking a shower, and I say, okay, I'm trying to save water in the toilet, but I'm still using too much water when I shower, so I need to close quickly my shower. So this is something that changed not the environment, but the user. And that's why, in my personal opinion, this is so powerful. And this is something that I really want to make you think and work with in the next projects that you develop, in the next things that you do, for example, because every time that we talk about sustainability, we are not talking about doing something for yourself. Usually, any decision that you've made based in a sustainability stuff, it's thinking on the society, it's thinking on the others. You don't save water only for you. You don't take care about the water or the food or anything. You don't take care about your trash, for example, your garbage, etc. for you. You take those decisions based in a society, based in an environment. So in my personal opinion, the good way with our solution and any kind of solution like this is we are changing the user, not the behavior, not the environment only. And this is so powerful because if we change 1 person, 2 person, 10 person, 10 people, 100 people, we are building a strong community of people that really can become a change maker, because they are taking small decisions every day, like just not flushing anymore, taking all those decisions to really change the world in the future. So I just want to say thank you in Portuguese. I want to let our contacts and our emails here, and if you need any other information from our side, etc., please feel free to contact us and and ask something for us. I saw there was a question here that is membrane desalination is most effective? It depends. It depends how much money do you have, because it's very expensive to manage and to control, but it works very well, and if you go to big plants, for example, that do this with membrane, works very, very well. But of course, even having all this technology, we are a bit far to have drinkable water exactly like we have in the water from rivers, etc. So thank you so much. For me, it was a pleasure, and